My fiancée wanted other men for balance but forbade me from it, but my cold response shattered her illusion of control and left her completely alone. My fiancée asked for an open relationship just weeks before our wedding. Am I the one for canceling the wedding? We were less than 2 weeks away from getting married when she asked me to accompany her to therapy. She was already seeing a therapist on her own and asked me to join her for a conversation before the wedding so we could be entirely honest with each other. That sounded unusual to me. I assumed we were already entirely honest with one another. After all, we were getting married in 2 weeks, right? She was also quite protective of her therapy sessions and did not discuss them openly. I'd never met her therapist, so being welcomed there felt out of place. The day came, and I attended the session. To protect myself, I kept my phone open and recorded audio. My fiancée had already arrived, and I had to wait 20 minutes before being let inside. The therapist greeted me, shook my hand, and we exchanged light talk. She informed me I wasn't as my fiancé had portrayed me. I assumed she was attempting to congratulate me. The therapist then turned to my fiancée and told her this may be more difficult than we anticipated. That freaked me out, but I remained calm, smiled politely, and did not respond. The therapist gave a brief speech that I do not like to repeat. As the therapist began emphasizing that we live in a modern world, my fiancée grasped my hand and expressed her desire for us to have a non-traditional marriage in the future. I grinned, not quite knowing what that meant. I assumed she was referring to seeking an equal partnership in which she would not be expected to give up her job or independence, a current girl power message. But it was something else entirely. She was talking about wanting to be able to sleep with other men once we married. I was stunned. It's 2018, I reminded myself, but seriously, she went on to say that she deeply loved me and would not be happy with me having the same freedom, since the thought of me being with other women would break her heart. She couldn't take the idea of someone else stealing me from her. I allowed them to finish chatting. They both appeared to gain confidence, most likely as a result of my silence. It felt like they had practiced this. After they were finished, I asked the therapist if she was licensed. Her reply indicated that she had not expected that to be my first question. She agreed, so I instructed her to explain to my fiancé why we would not be marrying and would no longer be a couple, effective immediately. I wished them both luck and exited the office. I'm considering reporting the therapist. I'm not sure whether I should report her to the clinic or a licensing board, but I believe there was some professional misconduct, and I want her to be held accountable. That session did not go well for me at all. To be clear, that conversation would never end well. Even if my fiancé had wanted an open marriage in which I could sleep with other women, I would still have called off the wedding. That is not a marriage, it is a fake. It's also occurred to me that she might have already cheated on me. Looking back, certain things do not add up, and now that I have clarity, I feel foolish. I listened to the recording again, and I still can't believe what they said. Anyway, I called the wedding off. I'm normally a laid-back guy. I avoid arguments and conflicts because I follow principles and utilize common sense. Perhaps that gave my ex the impression that I was a pushover, but she was completely mistaken. After listening to the recording a few times, I'm convinced the therapist understood I wasn't how my fiancé described me in their sessions, hence the comment, "This may be harder than we thought." Now that the wedding has been cancelled, people are starting to ask questions, and I'm not sure how to handle it. I'm sure my ex is conducting damage control, but I have the recording, and if she goes too far with her version of events, I won't be afraid to tell others what she was truly proposing. My parents and family also want answers, but I'm not sure what my ex has told them. I don't want them to think I was a fool for allowing things to progress to the point where she felt comfortable enough to tell me she wanted to sleep with other guys. She has also been blowing up my phone, my best friend's phone, and my brother's phone, saying we can work on this. She believes she did not understand what was stated during the therapy session and is willing to do whatever to make things right. This was the therapist's suggestion, she was opposed to it, etc. The final shriek of a dying siren. Her cries fell on deaf ears, and I own those ears. We were also working on obtaining a loan to purchase a home, but I cancelled everything. I effectively severed any ties we had, monetarily or otherwise. Her present appeal is that during treatment, she revealed her worries regarding our sexual history. I had many more partners than she did, and the therapist purportedly suggested that we level the field. Regardless of the truth, I'll report that therapist as soon as I figure out where and how. This post is largely a rant, but I'd like to know how you would handle questions from friends and family. My ex is definitely conducting her own damage control, and I don't want this to become a he said, she said issue. I have the recording and was wondering if I should share it with the relevant parties. My ex does not know I have the recording. Small update, I'm at work and just received confirmation that the journal has been returned to my ex. I sent it early this morning via courier from our office, and she had to sign a confirmation that she received it. As several have suggested, I concluded that reading it would be ineffective because she never accepted responsibility for the incident. Update 1. Aside from the jokes, the 2 weeks after my initial post have been intriguing. Last Monday, I spoke with a lawyer at work about my problem with the therapist. At first, he assumed I was joking and inquired about the prank. I offered to play the recording for him, and he accepted. The next day, we reviewed the recording together, and he pointed out stuff I hadn't observed. The therapist consistently used language such as "we think," "we want," and "we decided." She never once said, "Your ex asked me to talk with you," or "Your ex wants you to know." It was always either "we this" or "we that." The lawyer inquired as to my ultimate goal, whether I intended to file a lawsuit. I informed him I wasn't going to sue but wanted to report the therapist to the relevant authorities. We decided to write 2 letters, one to the clinic where the therapist works and another to the American Psychological Association, which validated her accreditation. By Wednesday, a few more people at work had become aware of the problem, including one of the case researchers. She looked up information about the therapist, including internet ratings and contact information for 2 of her prior clients. The therapist did not have the best views. Several people were furious with her. We were able to reach 2 of them via social media. When we described the scenario, they were eager to assist. Their stories were not any better than mine. The letters expanded in length as we included signed reports from the other 2 people, as well as my personal explanation of how my ex changed after starting therapy and a thorough account of my session with the doctor. Last Friday, I met with my ex's parents. They arrived at my parents' place, and we had a conversation. My ex was also present, and further material was revealed, which was then included in the report on the therapist. This week, reports were sent out, and the clinic responded. They called our office Thursday morning, most likely to see if the allegation was legitimate. We spoke with one of their lawyers over the phone, and after we determined it was serious, someone on the other end was heard saying, "Well, crap." They stated that they were treating the situation extremely seriously. One of my coworkers noted that the clinic had received prior complaints but never one this well documented, which could explain their prompt response. Their letter also stated that they were notifying the APA, which could have additional pressure. I'm not sure what will happen, but I consider my problem to be resolved. However, after speaking with the other 2 former patients, I strongly hope that the therapist will be probed. She sounds insane and certainly has a plan. She also wrecked their relationships, one of whom was a woman. Finally, my ex and her parents, my folks contacted last Friday and invited them to visit after work. When I arrived, I was surprised to see both my ex and her parents there. My initial thought was to go. This meeting was meant to be on my terms, but it appeared that she was attempting to control the situation. Let me tell you, it was not going to happen. My ex waited for me outside. She looked great. If there was ever a girl you wanted your parents to meet, she was it. She informed me that they were coming to speak with me and see if we could resolve this. They did not refer to her parents either. She never informed them what happened, or she told them a version of the story that they did not believe. She had a journal with her and stated that she began writing in it before treatment and continued until Friday morning. She said I should read it since it would clear up all the uncertainty. I informed her it wasn't a book club. I wanted to go inside and start the chat, but she requested 10 minutes to talk before meeting with her parents. She continued handing me her journal and began crying. Then my sister arrived, followed by my ex's sister. They had been there all along and came out to check on us. So I took the diary, walked inside, said hello to everyone, and then left my ex in the back of the garden, in the most remote part of my parents' yard. They have a spacious garden with plenty of trees and benches. She left her job owing to the stress, which resulted in a breakdown that never improved. She was no longer visiting her therapist. Initially, she began treatment for work-related issues, but it gradually turned to focus on our relationship, which appeared to be the only thing that therapist was interested in. She never explained to her folks why she became my ex. Now she was seeing a different therapist. I just listened. She shifted the subject to us, informing me that I would be in charge. I'd handle the funds, have access to all of her devices, and be able to track her activities. Any property we owned would be in my name, and she would do everything I asked to win my trust. She basically reaffirmed what she had been expressing in her messages throughout the previous weeks. She listed far more items than I can recall. I'm not sure how she believed this was a healthy way for either of us to live. I asked if she had cheated. She told me that she had the opportunity to cheat but never did. I believed her, but it made me angry. What exactly did she mean by opportunity? If you are in a committed relationship, you do not place yourself in a position where infidelity is even a possibility. You do not want the opportunity. It's similar to stating, I had the opportunity to kill someone today. Why? Why? What were you doing that resulted in such an opportunity, and why term it an opportunity as if it were something good? That pretty much concluded our 10 minutes. I told her we should go talk to our parents, and we did. I requested our sisters to leave us alone since what we were about to discuss was not their concern. My sister huffed and puffed, but a stone home can withstand hurricanes, and she wasn't one. I detailed what happened, how the therapy session went, and what I decided. I didn't say I had a recording since I didn't have to. My ex corroborated everything I had said, which astonished me. Her father had teary eyes, which shattered my heart. Her mother inquired if this was how she felt, they had raised her, and requested an explanation. My ex basically told them the same story: work-related stress, depression, a breakdown, therapy focusing solely on our relationship, the therapist convincing her that our relationship was the source of all her stress, that she needed an open relationship to avoid losing me, and that she needed to level her sexual experience with mine. She said my reply jolted her out of her slump. She has quit her job and is seeking something less demanding. She'll do anything to get me back. My ex referenced the diary again, saying that if I read it, it would explain everything, and that while she disagreed with the therapist's opinions, she went along with them since the therapist was an authoritative figure with experience. Our parents glanced at me, and I said someone's private journal is not the type of literature I read unless they're a dead poet. A big mistake. My purpose was to convey that private journals only become literature when written by a writer or a leader, and that they are typically published after the author's death. I was also hoping they'd get the message that I didn't want to read her notebook since it wouldn't change anything. What had been done was done. Everyone looked at me as if I had wished death on my ex. You could sense the animosity in the air, so I gave in and muttered, "Fine, fine," promising to read the journal. You win some, you lose some, and then you use the incorrect words, resulting in even more losses. My ex is currently seeing a new therapist. She showed her parents the confirmation emails for her appointments. He's an older man with a white beard, much like Freud. I searched him up online. He is married, attends conferences, and has written a couple of books that are accessible on Amazon. Seems like a solid character. Then her parents said, "Can't you kids work this out?" That was the second thing that made me angry that day, as if this were child's play and we should just listen to the adults, since we were too young to control our emotions or judge what constitutes an irreversible betrayal. We were just kids who needed to work things out. So I reclaimed some ground after my earlier remark about the Dead Poets Society, and that was how the day concluded. We've known each other for 9 years and been in a relationship for 5. Even if there are real causes for her behavior, how can you return to normal? This was not even a reset. My perspective on my ex has shifted dramatically. She has become a stranger to me. Yes, I still find her appealing, very attractive. There's no disputing how great she looked last Friday, but it was also calculated. I won't lie, her hair was styled the way I like it, and she wore a dress I got for her, as well as the shoes I prefer the most. I could even detect a bit of the perfume I had given her. The journal is on my nightstand. I have not read it, and I doubt I ever will. I looked through it to see if it was actually a year old, and it is. As you work your way through the entries, you can see how the pages are folded and how the ink is aged. The pen she used was attached to the journal. When I examined it, it matched the ink, and the ink level appeared to be consistent with the year of use. It's not a forgery, everything about it is compatible with the year of wear and tear. I don't see how reading it would help. It feels like a tool for playing with my psyche, not really. I don't think she started writing it a year ago with the intention of using it for manipulation. If what she told me is true, her new therapist advised she share the journal with me. When people ask why the wedding is off, I tell them we had a huge difference of opinion that we couldn't resolve, more or less. But if her sister discovers the true reason, which is likely, given her tight relationship with their mother, everyone will find out soon enough. Our parents want us to meet again next week. They told me to read the journal, which might assist. Given our extensive history, perhaps we can work on it and start over. They believe she will receive therapy, recover, and remain the lady I fell in love with, just not right now. They can see I still adore her, otherwise, I wouldn't be so theatrical. I don't think I'll meet them next Friday, but she did look stunning. I'd like to thank the community for their support and assistance. It's been enough to help me develop a strategy for dealing with the therapist. Thank you to everyone who shared resources and information about what to do next. What do I do with her journal? Return it, keep it, or read it 90 years from now? Update 2. The therapist no longer works at the facility. The clinic's lawsuit is most likely the primary motivator for this decision. Someone unrelated to my case has sued them. I don't have any other information. The therapist attempted to reach me but was unsuccessful. I believe she learned about my report on her and requested more information, but who knows? I didn't interact with her, she was blocked, and her questions remained unanswered. A faint voice in the back of my head suggests that filing that report may not have been the best move. It could attract unwelcome attention, and the persons behind the lawsuit could approach me for assistance. Despite this, I can't keep a satisfied grin off my face knowing that the therapist is in trouble. To those who have questioned whether I have emotions, if this isn't proof enough, I'm not sure what would be, and I hope you understand sarcasm. Mela, on the other hand, complicates matters considerably. I added a brief update to my previous post concerning her journal. I decided to return it, and I was quite clinical in my approach. On Monday morning, the courier we use at work handed the journal to her. I attached a note explaining why I had not read it. Everything came down to a refusal to accept responsibility for the situation. By giving me the journal, I felt she was washing her hands of the situation, putting the duty of finding solutions on my shoulders. In return, I washed my hands of it. To be honest, I felt a pang of sadness the moment they told me the journal had been returned. Perhaps I should have read it. Later that day, Mela arrived at my workplace. She didn't cause a scene, nothing like that. She waited patiently in the lobby. Her goal was to wait until I ended my workday and then talk to me. Naturally, I discovered she was present quite quickly. My options were to send her away or talk to her, so we talked. Several architects planned the end of our relationship. 1. Stress. This was something I was aware of, but I had never recognized how serious it was. In retrospect, when she began seeking a therapist to help with work stress, I should have been more conscious of the issue. But she always said everything was all right, so why shouldn't I believe her? Whether she was seeing a therapist or not, she had a breakdown at work that she kept hidden from me and her family. 2. Miscarriage. I may have become a father. She miscarried. She told me she was a few weeks pregnant and wanted to make it special. However, a few days later, she began bleeding, and that was it. She never told me about it because she was worried I would think she was unworthy. She knows how badly I want to be a father, and she assumed this would lead me to believe she couldn't bear children. This idea is completely ludicrous. 3. Friends. I made it clear in the comments that we had friends in open relationships. One such acquaintance phoned Mela over a year ago and invited her to lunch. She quickly began venting her feelings over her broken marriage onto Mela. Her husband, like me, had far more lovers than she did. In my situation, there were 26 previous partners, her husband had 70. He demanded an open relationship from the day they married, and she has been miserable ever since. Apparently, Mela would face the same fate if she did not take care of me. This friend informed Mela that I exhibited the same symptoms as her husband before they married. 4. Family secrets. Those we love are not always who we believe they are. Our fathers work in academia and have known each other for 30 to 35 years. They routinely go to work-related gatherings and parties, usually with their wives. I met Mela at one such occasion. I went with my father to meet a professor who could aid me with my career. Mela was there instead of her mother, who had a scheduling conflict, or so she was told. Her parents were having a difficult time as a result of her father's infidelity. Mela just learned about this recently when she discussed the concerns raised by the previously mentioned friend with her mother. This was a great shock for her. Her parents always appeared to be the ideal couple, a role model. They certainly patched things up and maintained the appearance of a wonderful marriage. The 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, combined with a therapist with questionable objectives, and that's how you end a relationship. The therapist was excited to plan my open relationship and validated what my friend had said. Men like me would never be pleased with only one woman. I would eventually seek more, and the only way to cure my cheating impulses was for Mela to sleep with other men until we evened out the numbers. Of course, I would be opposed to it, but that was okay. If I loved Mela, I could understand this. This was a multi-layered concept. It would not only cure my alleged cheating behavior but it would also affirm my love for her and enhance our bond. Naturally, this approach would have failed, and I believe that is precisely what the therapist was going for. Our relationship would not have survived. What the therapist did not foresee was how quickly I would react, or so I believe. Now, Mela and I met every day for the rest of the week, and she answered every question I asked her. One thing was clear, she was willing to fight for our relationship, whereas I was ready to leave. Things at the end of the week, I had to depart for another city for work. The trip was intended to be 2 weeks but was extended to 4 weeks, more billable hours. Before leaving, I gave Mela a copy of the therapy session tape. She knew I had it. It was one of the first things I discussed with her when she arrived at my employment on Monday. Listening to the recording rattled her to her core. What she remembered about the treatment session differed significantly from what was on the recording. I believe she finally understood where all of my acts and conduct towards her originated from during those 3 weeks. I had little interference from anyone and was left to my own devices. It was wonderful. Several individuals in the comments offered me a beer if I ever visited their city, and I accepted. It was my first time meeting another Redditor, and surprise, he was not a weirdo. He and his wife were excellent individuals. Mila paid a visit in the 4th week. We had been in communication for the preceding 3 weeks, discussing a variety of things, most of which were about us. One important concern was finalizing our honeymoon plans. We were meant to go to France for 2 weeks following the wedding, but neither of us could go right away, so it was scheduled for 3 months later, and it was quickly approaching. We already had non-refundable travel tickets and hotel reservations, but we no longer had us. That 4th week, we chatted more and decided to go to France as friends. I can already imagine eyes rolling, but France was incredible. Visiting a place like that reminds you that the United States is medieval in comparison. Americans are easily identifiable in museums. To be honest, learning how to act in foreign nations should be required in our schools. We returned from France as a couple again. It wasn't due to the magic of Paris, though. We're not back to our previous selves yet, and there's more work to be done. Several points we agreed on, in no particular order. 1. Mela is seeking a new job that is less stressful. 2. Our friends in open marriages have been branded a toxic influence, and we will no longer socialize with them. 3. We both like the name Mela, and it will be used for our first daughter. Thank you, France. 4. Never hide anything from your partner, such as a miscarriage. I'm quite upset about this one. 5. We will acquire a dog and a cat. 6. Mela will keep seeing her current therapist for a time. 7. When we do marry, it will be a simple wedding with only our immediate family. 8. We'll probably visit Italy next. I suppose this is not the thrilling update everyone was hoping for. Many of you requested an update, and if you were hoping for rage, hatred, or revenge, I'm sure there is a version of this story in which those things are feasible. But as I've stated from the start, I didn't detest Mela. My actions were based on self-preservation at the moment. Her behaviors indicated that she wanted something other than what I believed we both agreed on. There is no reason to be concerned about her mental state. When her therapist's impact faded, she returned to her previous self, more or less. These events have unavoidably altered her, but she is now in a better state. You'll recall that she promised me control over her finances, tracking her location, and full access to all of her devices. Aside from my disinterest in such a lifestyle, those were simply attempts to continue the conversation. We agree to be open with our devices, but we have always been so. Nothing has changed there. We will continue to share our finances as we have always done. Thank you to everyone who left comments and sent me private messages. Some of the advice I received was invaluable, and I'm eternally thankful. Writing these pieces and interacting with you all has been quite therapeutic, a great way to relieve stress.